Have you ever been called crazy for feeling something too deeply, for seeing something before anyone else could see it, for knowing something in your heart that you couldn't get explained? Have you ever felt so sure of a truth that others couldn't accept, only to be mocked, ignored, and left standing alone in silence? If that's you, then listen closely, because everything they laughed at, everything they dismissed you for, everything they said was nonsense, is starting to unfold right in front of their eyes. And now, they remember. They laughed at the storm until the storm reached them, until it cracked the ground beneath their feet. And now, they call the thunder wise. Now, they call it divine. But not long ago, they mocked it. They did the same to you. They rolled their eyes when you spoke, labeled you unhinged, said you were imagining things, that you were out of touch with reality. But the truth is, you were never out of touch. You were tuned into something they couldn't hear. You weren't unstable. You were too steady in a world that feared change. The only thing you were out of was their league. What they didn't realize is that by mocking you, they weren't just pushing away a person. They were rejecting the very force that sent you. They weren't challenging your thoughts. They were challenging the universe itself. And no one wins that war. You were never lost. You were never broken. You were just far ahead. While they clung to comfort, routine, and shallow explanations, you were out there feeling the shifts, decoding the chaos, hearing the whispers from something higher. You were translating signals they didn't even know existed. And now, one by one, those very things you tried to explain are happening. And suddenly, it's quiet. That silence is deafening, louder than every insult they ever threw at you. And it's not peace. It's the sound of regret. You weren't speaking nonsense. You were remembering. You weren't confused. You were clear. They called it madness only because your clarity came before their language could catch up. They weren't ready for someone who could speak in symbols, in feelings, in energy, in vision. While they were still echoing noise, you were broadcasting truth, and that made you terrifying. But the universe doesn't pick people randomly. It chooses those strong enough to hold fire without burning out. It chooses those who are willing to stand in the storm without losing their voice. It chooses those who are not looking for comfort, but for purpose. That's why it chose you. Not because you were perfect, but because you were willing. Because even in your darkest hours, even when they left you, even when they laughed at you, you didn't let go of what you knew deep inside. You felt alone, not because you were forgotten, but because you were rare. And rare doesn't mean unworthy. It means sacred. It means essential. Your isolation was not exile. It was preparation. While they partied in distraction, you were being sharpened in silence. While they chased attention, you were being trained in alignment. While they played it safe, you were walking through fire. And now, that fire is showing. Now the truth is undeniable. And you don't need to explain anymore. You don't need to beg anyone to listen. Your life is the message. Your being is the evidence. The same people who laughed are now watching. Not to mock, but to understand. They're scrambling to figure out how you knew. But you didn't guess. You remembered. You were never making it up. You were receiving it. You were built for this. You were born for this. This is your moment. Not the end, but the beginning. Because now everything is shifting. Now the signs are aligning. Now the truth is landing exactly the way you said it would. And if what they once mocked is now unfolding word for word, then this message isn't just content, it's confirmation. It's a mirror of everything you've held on to when no one else could see it. They said you were too much. You were never too much. They were just too small to hold you. They were too afraid to follow you. They were too asleep to recognize what they were witnessing. You weren't asking for validation. You were carrying something holy, something ancient, something divine. And now, they know. Now they remember the things you said, the warnings you gave, the truths you spoke, and they're trying to keep up. But they can't outrun the truth, because the truth is here, and it has your name written all over it. You are never the storm's messenger. You are the storm itself, quiet, invisible, building, and now you've arrived. And this time, they cannot ignore you. Let them scroll back through old messages. Let them remember the way they left you on read. Let them sit in the echo of the words they once mocked. Let your presence be the contradiction to their disbelief. Let your stillness speak louder than their laughter ever did. You don't have to prove anything. You already did. With your silence, with your strength, with your survival. Because you survived it all. You survived their mockery, their judgment, their rejection, their silence. You survived the long nights, the confusion, the questions, the loneliness. You survived carrying a truth no one wanted to hear. You were chosen not to be praised, but to hold something that only a few ever carry. A light so strong that even at your dimmest, you still shine too bright for their comfort zones. They didn't attack you because you were wrong. They came for you because your truth exposed everything false in them. You were the mirror. You were the reflection of what they didn't want to see in themselves. And now that everything is coming true, they're not rushing to support you. They're trying to make sense of how they missed it. But you didn't miss it. You were born for it. You were always listening, always seeing, always feeling. You didn't hallucinate. You received a download before the world had the words for it. You were living in tomorrow while they were stuck in yesterday. You weren't broken. You were just broadcasting on a higher frequency. And they couldn't hear you, not because you were wrong, but because they weren't ready. And now that they are, you don't need to shout. Just stand. Just walk. Just be. Let the truth move through you like it always has. They didn't fear you. They feared the quake inside your words. They feared that if even one thing you said was true, everything they built would fall apart. So they tried to silence you, tried to label you, but they couldn't erase you, because the truth never disappears. It just waits. And when it rises, it doesn't need permission. So now, let them remember. Let them replay every conversation, every warning, every vision you tried to share. Let them face what they tried to bury. You were not the threat. You were the mirror. You were the signal. You were the wake-up call. You were never crazy. You were just early. In a world that resists anything that shows up before it's popular, truth always looks like madness at first, but only for a while. Because eventually, the storm you carried comes. The world shifts. The veil lifts. And the ones who mocked you fall silent. And when they do, don't shrink. Don't apologize. Don't explain. Just remember who you are. Remember what you carry. Remember what you survived. You weren't sent to fit in. You were sent to shake the foundation. You weren't born to be understood. You were born to awaken. You weren't made for approval. You were made for impact. This is your moment. This is your time. And you're not alone anymore. The universe is walking with you just like it always has. It's your turn to rise without asking for permission. The truth has landed. And it looks like you. You weren't imagining things. You weren't being dramatic. You weren't exaggerating. What you were feeling was real. What you were sensing was truth trying to break through. While everyone else was caught up in distractions and noise, you were paying attention. You were seeing what others refused to look at. You weren't trying to cause panic. You weren't trying to create fear. You were simply trying to express what your soul already knew. You felt the shifts before they became visible. You sensed the collapse before the structure even started to shake. You weren't talking in stories. You were describing reality that hadn't arrived yet. You weren't forecasting doom to get attention. You were speaking truth because you couldn't stay silent anymore. But the people around you weren't ready. They didn't have the emotional strength or the clarity to understand what you were trying to say. So instead of asking questions, instead of listening with open hearts, they turned on you. They rejected your truth because it made them uncomfortable. They mocked your insight because it made them nervous. They laughed at you not because they truly found you funny, but because deep down they were scared. Scared of how much you saw. Scared of how clearly you felt things. Scared that if you were right, then their entire world was wrong. And they weren't ready to face that. You became the mirror they were too afraid to look into. And when people are afraid of a mirror, they don't clean it. They try to break it. They attacked you not because you were dangerous, but because you were different. Because you were awake in a world that sleeps with its eyes open. Because you could see through what others accepted blindly. And when people aren't ready to wake up, they will call the one who is awake crazy. That's what happened to you. You were never weak. You were never lost. You were never unstable. You were just early. You saw through the illusion while they were still decorating it. You felt the truth while they were still trying to hide from it. You sensed the earthquake while everyone else danced on the cracks. And because you were first to feel it, they turned you into the threat. They said you were unstable when really you were just shaking off the lies. They said you were emotional when really you were deeply connected. They said you were delusional when really you were intuitive. They needed to say these things to protect themselves from the truth you carried. It wasn't about you. It was about what you represented. You were proof that the world they trusted was falling apart. And rather than accept that, they tried to make you the problem. But now, everything you felt, everything you warned about, everything you tried to explain, it's all happening. Not in dreams, not in riddles, in headlines, in families, in everyday life. The collapse you saw is no longer a warning. It's here. The systems you spoke about are breaking down. The masks are falling off. The roles are being questioned. The silence is becoming unbearable. And the very people who mocked you, doubted you, dismissed you, they don't know what to do anymore. They are confused. They are scared. They are silent. They are trying to figure out if they should say they were wrong or pretend they never judged you. Some will try to act like they always believed you. Some will try to rewrite history in their favor. But you will know. You will feel it. Because you were there before them. You carried this truth alone while they laughed. You held this burden when no one believed you. You stood in the fire they couldn't even see. Now the fire is everywhere, and they are running out of places to hide. You don't need to say, "I told you so." The world is screaming it for you. The proof is in the air. The silence of those who once shouted over you is enough. Let this remind you of something powerful. You were not attacked because you were wrong. You were attacked because you were right too soon. You were not feared because you were broken. You were feared because you could see. They didn't attack your weakness. They attacked your vision. You weren't targeted because you were lost. You were targeted because you had a map. But the world wasn't ready to be led. Not by someone like you. Not by someone who didn't need their permission. Not by someone who moved with inner knowing instead of outside approval. The crowd always turns cruel when someone evolves faster than they're prepared for. You weren't treated badly because you were flawed. You were treated badly because you were free. And your freedom exposed their chains. Your independence showed them their dependence. Your clarity made their confusion louder. Your calm presence made their panic louder. Your quiet truth made their loud lies shake. So they pushed you away, not because they hated you, but because they hated what you awakened in them. And now, the moment has come. Everything you saw, felt, dreamed, it's arriving. The volume is up. The veil is thinner. The simulation is glitching. The system is breaking. The fog is lifting. And the people who once thought you were crazy are now quoting your words, repeating your ideas, even using your phrases. They might not give you credit. They may not apologize, but their actions will speak louder than their past judgments. You'll see it in their silence. You'll feel it in their shift, because truth has a way of surfacing, and your truth has now become their reality. Don't let their past opinions shrink your present power. Don't let their old labels steal your current strength. You were never meant to be accepted. You were meant to be undeniable. You were never here to be normal. You were here to be new. Your mind wasn't broken. It was being rebuilt. You weren't falling apart. You were falling into place. What they called dysfunction was actually transformation. What they called confusion was just expansion. What they called a breakdown was actually a breakthrough in slow motion. You were being upgraded, inside and out. Your system was shifting. Your soul was remembering. Your thoughts were rearranging. Your heart was rewiring. And that kind of growth doesn't come with instructions. So society labeled it wrong. But the labels never fit you. You were never too much. You were just too ahead. You were never too sensitive. You were just deeply connected. You were never too emotional. You were just emotionally aware. You were never too strange. You were just too real. And in a world that runs on illusions, realness is often the first thing to be attacked. They gaslit you because you saw the lie and refused to pretend it was truth. You saw the cage and called it out while everyone else was decorating it. You saw the play and stopped clapping. You saw the script and walked off stage. You refused to wear the mask they gave you. You refused to act like the system was fine, and that refusal made you dangerous in their eyes. Not because you were dangerous, but because you were different. You were awake while they were trying to sleep. You were grounded while they were floating in fantasy. You were listening to your soul while they were obeying the system. That made them nervous, so they turned their fear into attack. But here's the truth. You didn't miss anything. You saw more than most. You didn't break down. You broke free. You didn't lose touch with reality. You lost tolerance for pretending. You didn't disconnect from the world. You disconnected from the false one. You stopped nodding to lies. You stopped smiling through nonsense. You stopped laughing at pain. You stopped clapping for manipulation. And in doing that, you became the threat. Not because you were trying to be, but because your truth was louder than their illusion. They didn't understand you, so they labeled you. They couldn't explain you, so they excluded you. They couldn't guide you, so they called you lost. But you weren't lost. You were just being led by something deeper than what they knew. You weren't out of touch. You were out of range. You were no longer part of their game. So they tried to call you the problem. But now the game is ending. The rules are breaking. The stage is burning. And the truth you carried is all that remains. You didn't survive the fire just to become smoke. You didn't walk through the darkness just to dim your light. You didn't carry the burden of being misunderstood just to ask for permission later. You came here to remember who you are and to remind others of the same. So stand tall, not because they finally believe you, but because you never needed them to. You were never crazy. You were calibrated. You were never broken. You were becoming. You were never unstable. You were just unbound. And now the world is catching up to the truth you've known all along. You weren't the threat because you ran from the system. You were the threat because you walked away without asking, without begging, without looking back. You didn't break the rules. You broke the spell. And that's why they tried to erase you. But the truth can't be erased. And now that the lights are on, they can't unsee what you've been saying all along. You didn't escape. You just refused to stay. And that choice made you the one who was never really in the cage at all. So here you are. The person they once called lost is now the one they look to for guidance. The person they once ignored is now the echo they hear in everything. And the person they once feared is now the evidence that truth always rises. You were never broken. You were chosen. And now, your time has come.
Have you ever stopped and asked yourself, how am I even still here? After everything that's come against you, after all the pain, betrayal, and silent attacks, how did you survive? How are you still standing when so much was sent to break you? Why didn't that car crash end your life? Why didn't the sickness take you out? Why didn't the betrayal destroy your spirit? Why didn't the lies ruin your future? Why didn't the jealousy and hidden curses block your destiny? The reason is simple, but powerful. You are not walking through life empty. You are not walking through life alone. You have been chosen. You have been protected. You have been spiritually armed, even when you didn't know it. God placed something inside of you long before you ever faced your first storm. He put strength in your bones, fire in your soul, and purpose in your name. You may not see the armor you wear, but heaven sees it. You may not hear the sword in your spirit, but it's real. and it was forged in the presence of God before you ever took your first breath. That's why no demon can steal your peace when you know who's walking beside you. That's why no curse can stick to your name when heaven has already called you holy. You were never unprotected. You were never without help. From the very beginning, you've been wrapped in power, walking with divine authority, even when you didn't feel it. And if you're reading this now, in this exact moment, it's not by accident. If this message found you right when you needed it, don't ignore that. It's confirmation that heaven is still speaking to you. If something in your heart is stirring right now, type 11,111 in the comments as a declaration that you received this word and that blessings are about to overflow into your life. This isn't just another message. It's a spiritual reminder of who you are and what you carry. Before the enemy ever tries to attack your calling, he first attacks your identity. Because if he can confuse you about who you are, he can distract you from what you were born to do. But what the enemy didn't realize is that God didn't wait for you to be born to name you. He named you before time began. He sealed your identity in heaven before the earth even knew your face. And no matter what anyone has said about you, no matter what life has tried to label you, those names, failure, broken, forgotten, worthless, are lies. Those are not your real names. In the spirit, your name carries fire. It carries honor. It carries the weight of divine sonship. You are not just some person trying to find your place in the world. You are handcrafted by the Creator Himself. You carry His fingerprints. You walk with His breath in your lungs. And when you finally say out loud, "I am who God says I am," something shifts. You become untouchable in the spirit. No lie can trap you. No trauma can define you. No betrayal can rewrite your destiny. Your name becomes your weapon because it carries your origin and it reflects your purpose. And when the enemy tries to rename you with fear or shame, heaven speaks louder. God rises up and says, "This one is mine. This one is chosen. This one is sealed." But identity is not the only thing God gave you. He also gave you the power of His Word. The Bible is not just a book. It's a weapon. Every verse is a spiritual sword. Every line is filled with power. When Jesus was tempted in the wilderness, He didn't use miracles or heavenly armies. He simply spoke Scripture. That's how powerful the Word is. Because the devil doesn't fear noise, he fears truth. When you speak God's word, you aren't just repeating something religious. You are cutting through lies. You are breaking curses. You are tearing down darkness that's been hiding in your bloodline. Psalm 91 is not just a comfort verse. It's a shield. Isaiah 54:17 isn't just encouragement. It's a declaration that no weapon formed against you will ever succeed. The Word of God is your spiritual contract. It is your legal right to stand firm, no matter what tries to shake you. When you speak the Word, heaven responds. The most powerful person isn't the one who prays the loudest or sings the most beautifully. It's the one who knows the Word, believes it, and uses it. Don't just read it. Fight with it. Speak it until demons leave your home. Declare it until depression lifts off your shoulders. Believe it until every wall that tried to trap you falls flat. You've been given truth to fight the lies. You've been given light to break through darkness. And it's already inside you. And when you feel too weak to fight, remember this. Prayer is not a last resort. It is your most dangerous weapon. When you fall on your knees, you're not begging, you're commanding. You are not helpless. You are backed by heaven. Every time you pray, angels move, chains begin to break, doors begin to open, attacks begin to fall apart before they ever reach you. When you say, "In Jesus' name," you are not finishing a sentence. You are declaring war on everything that was sent to destroy you. You are rewriting what the enemy planned for your life. That's why the enemy wants to silence your prayer life. That's why he sends distraction, weariness, and doubt, because he knows that when you pray in alignment with God's will, hell has no choice but to retreat. So pray like your life depends on it, because it does. Pray like your children's future depends on it. Pray like your destiny depends on it, because it does. And when the battle feels heavy and your strength runs low, there is something else you can do that will confuse the enemy more than anything else. You can praise, not because everything is perfect, but because you believe in a God who is greater than your circumstances. Praise is not just music. It is a weapon that shakes the unseen world. When you praise in the middle of your storm, you declare that the storm won't win. When you praise while you're bleeding, you're telling the enemy, "You hit me, but I still know who my God is." That's what Paul and Silas did. Beaten and chained in a prison cell, they didn't cry. They sang. They didn't wait for rescue. They praised. And heaven responded. The ground shook. Chains fell. Doors opened. And not just for them. Everyone around them was set free. That's what your praise does. It doesn't just set you free. It changes the atmosphere for everyone connected to you. It tells your battle, "You've already lost." It tells your fear, "You can't live here anymore." It tells your pain, "You don't have power over me." Demons can't stand the sound of praise because it brings the presence of God. So praise when you feel strong, but also praise when you feel weak. Praise when you're full of hope, but especially praise when you're empty. Sometimes your worship is the very thing that brings your breakthrough. And if all of that weren't enough, you are not walking through life alone. The Holy Spirit, the Spirit of the living God, lives inside you. He is not just a peaceful feeling or a church experience. He is wisdom. He is power. He is fire. He is truth. He is the voice that whispers when something dangerous is near. He is the one who tells you to walk away when your heart wants to stay. He is the one who exposes lies before they reach you. He is the one who gives you peace that makes no sense and strength that doesn't run out. He's not just with you on Sundays. He lives in you always. He is the fire that pushes darkness away. He is the one who makes you different. He is your GPS when the world tries to mislead you. He is your power when you're tired. He is your comfort when you feel alone. And when he lives in you, no demon can stay close for long. He gives you discernment, the ability to see through lies, to feel what's not being said, to recognize what's pretending to be good but isn't. He helps you notice what others miss. He tells you to leave when your heart wants to stay. He saves you from people who are smiling on the outside but hiding poison in their soul. He helps you walk away from opportunities that seem perfect but are traps in disguise. That voice inside you, that feeling you get when something just doesn't feel right, that's not fear. That's not paranoia. That's protection. That's discernment. and it's one of the most powerful gifts God has given you. So don't ignore it. Don't push it down. Trust it. It's God guarding you from what your eyes can't see yet. It's heaven's way of keeping you one step ahead of the enemy. It's what keeps you from marrying pain in disguise. It's what protects your calling from the people who were secretly sent to destroy it. Not everything that glows is from God. Not everyone who prays with you is sent by Him. Not every door is meant for you to walk through. That's why God gave you the ability to feel what others can't explain. That's why you often feel out of place in rooms that others find comfortable, because you're not supposed to fit where darkness is hiding. You are not crazy. You are not weak. You are chosen. You are equipped. You are surrounded by the power of heaven. You are not fighting for your life alone. You are fighting with invisible weapons that the enemy cannot defeat. That's why you're still here. That's why you survived the car crash. That's why you're healing from betrayal. That's why sickness couldn't take you. That's why your tears didn't drown you. Because heaven fought for you. Because you are armed. You are chosen. You are covered. You are stronger than every storm. Because you are built with power the world cannot see. You didn't make it this far just to give up. You didn't walk through the fire just to stay stuck in smoke. You are walking into something new now. Something sacred. Something powerful. And no matter how heavy it feels, you are not walking empty. You are walking with the fire of God in your soul. And that is more than enough. Discernment is one of the most powerful gifts heaven has given you. And most people don't even realize how important it is until something goes wrong. It's not just a feeling or a random thought. It's a spiritual radar that helps you detect what your physical eyes can't see. In a world where so many things are fake, where people wear masks and say all the right words just to hide their true intentions, discernment becomes your lifeline. It's how you know who is really sent by God and who is pretending to be. It's how you recognize danger that doesn't look like danger. Some doors look like blessings, but they're traps. Some people speak like angels but carry the spirit of deception. That's why discernment is not optional. It's how your spirit survives in a world filled with lies, manipulation, flattery, false teachings, and carefully disguised spiritual attacks. God didn't leave you defenseless. He placed something inside you that tugs on your heart when something is off. Even if everything looks fine on the outside, that uneasiness you feel isn't always paranoia. It's protection. When you learn to listen to that still voice inside, when you trust that nudge in your spirit that says, something's not right, you stop falling for every sweet word and every shiny opportunity. You become spiritually awake. You stop being easy to fool. You start testing things. You stop letting every person who says, God told me, into your life. You begin to guard your soul. You look at fruit, not just words. You look at patterns, not just moments. Because you know your life carries a purpose, and not everyone around you is safe for that purpose. You become someone who can't be manipulated, someone who can't be easily deceived, someone who sees beyond the surface. And that kind of clarity terrifies the enemy. There's another weapon you've been given, and it's often misunderstood: peace. Real peace isn't about escaping problems. It's about staying grounded in God even while the storm rages around you. Peace is not weakness. It is strength under pressure. It's not silence because everything is perfect. It's calm because you trust the one who is greater than the storm. Peace lets you smile when everything is falling apart. It gives you rest when everything inside you wants to scream. Peace is spiritual protection. It's like a soldier standing guard over your heart and mind. That's what Paul said in Philippians 4:7. Peace will guard you. It will cover you like armor. And when you carry real peace, you confuse hell. Because the enemy doesn't just want to destroy your life. He wants to disturb your mind. He knows that if he can shake your thoughts, he can shake your decisions. If he can mess with your emotions, he can mess with your direction. But when your peace is anchored in God, when your trust is deeper than your fear, you become unshakable. The enemy throws storms at you, and you learn from them. He sends people to hurt you, and you rise higher. He expects you to break, but instead, you worship. That's the kind of peace that makes you a mystery to the kingdom of darkness. Fasting is another spiritual weapon most people ignore or misunderstand. It's not about skipping meals or punishing yourself. It's not about looking religious. Fasting is about pulling away from everything that distracts your flesh so that your spirit can breathe again. In a world that tells you to feed every craving, fasting teaches you how to say no. It teaches your body that it is not in charge. It teaches your desires to submit to the Spirit of God. Fasting quiets the noise around you so that the voice of God becomes louder. Jesus himself said in Matthew 17:21, "This kind only comes out by prayer and fasting." That means some demonic strongholds won't move just because you pray. Some chains won't break unless your life is fully surrendered. Fasting is a form of spiritual war. You're not just saying no to food. You're saying no to fear, no to lust, no to pride, no to spiritual laziness. And every time you say no to something your flesh wants, you are making room for something your soul desperately needs: clarity, power, fire, and divine direction. You begin to see clearly again. You begin to dream again. You feel the fog lifting and your inner strength returning. And every time you choose fasting over comfort, you're telling heaven, "I want you more." That kind of hunger, holy hunger, moves mountains. Obedience is another weapon that changes everything. It's not about having all the answers. It's about trusting the one who does. In the kingdom of God, obedience is how you step into miracles. It's how doors open. It's how chains break. God doesn't always explain himself. Sometimes he just says, "Move," and waits to see if you will. Think about Abraham. God said, "Go," and Abraham went without even knowing where, because he trusted God's voice more than he trusted his comfort. Or think about Noah. God said, "Build an ark," even though there was no sign of rain. Noah obeyed, and that obedience saved generations. Obedience isn't weakness. It's strength that doesn't need to make sense. It's power that doesn't wait for comfort. And when you obey, even while trembling, God shows up with thunder. You can fast all day and pray all night. But if your heart is saying no to God's instructions, heaven will pause. Obedience opens the doors that prayer alone can't. It attracts favor. It pulls miracles into your life. And here's the mystery. What you obey in private becomes your breakthrough in public. Obedience may cost you something. It may cost you comfort, relationships, or reputation. But it will never cost you the presence of God. And once God sees that he can trust your yes, there's nothing the enemy can do to stop the blessings he will release. Then there's the blood of Jesus. It's not just a symbol or a story. It is the most powerful spiritual force in existence. When Jesus shed his blood, he didn't just erase your sin. He destroyed every plan the enemy had to keep you bound. The blood speaks louder than shame, louder than curses, louder than generational pain. The blood of Jesus is your proof that the price has been paid. It is your right to walk in freedom. When you speak the blood in prayer, you are not just asking for help. You are declaring victory. Demons tremble when they hear it. Darkness cannot cross the line drawn by it. The blood is your covering, your cleansing, your protection, your covenant with God. When the enemy comes to remind you of your past, the blood speaks louder and says, paid in full. When you plead the blood over your home, your children, your health, your mind, you are not begging. You are enforcing heaven's rule over your life. You are building walls that the enemy cannot pass. Just like the destroyer had to pass over the homes marked with blood in Egypt, the enemy must pass over your life. You are marked. You are sealed. You are covered. And it's not because you're perfect. It's because the blood speaks for you. The blood defends you. The blood surrounds you. And when the enemy sees it, he cannot touch what belongs to God. You are not empty-handed. You have not been left without protection. You have spiritual weapons that were given to you on purpose, for a purpose. Discernment keeps you from falling into traps. Peace gives you strength in storms. Fasting awakens your spirit. Obedience opens the floodgates of heaven. And the blood of Jesus covers everything. Now you know. You are not powerless. You are not unprotected. You are not just trying to survive. You are rising, conquering, and becoming everything God created you to be. No spell can change your identity. No lie can break your calling. No darkness can silence your light. If your heart is stirring right now, it's not a coincidence. It's confirmation. You were meant to hear this. You were meant to awaken. If this message spoke to your soul, if it reached you at the exact moment you needed it, type 111 in the comments as a sign that heaven is moving for you. Let the enemy know that your eyes are open, your weapons are active, and your spirit is armed for victory. You're not just surviving. You're stepping into power. You're walking in peace. And your light is just beginning to shine.
What if your presence alone could change a room without you saying a single word? What if the calm in your eyes, the stillness in your body, and the quiet strength in your soul spoke louder than anything you could ever say out loud? What if people could feel something sacred in you before they even knew your name? Not because of how you looked or acted, but because of the energy you carry, the peace you've earned, and the truth you now live. Chosen one, this is who you've become. Even before you walk into a room, something about you is already there. Before you speak, before your shadow touches the floor, your presence has arrived first. Quiet, steady, undeniable. It's not your clothes or your voice that people notice first. It's not how you move or what you say. What they feel is something far more powerful than appearance. It's your energy, that soft, warm force that floats just ahead of you, like a gentle signal that says, "You are safe now. Peace is here." Most won't be able to explain it, but they'll feel it in their body. They'll feel a strange comfort, a deep breath they didn't know they were holding, This isn't the kind of light that blinds people or asks to be seen. It's the kind that quietly touches hearts. It doesn't perform, and it never needs to. It simply is. And it's so real that it shakes people who are still pretending. It reaches into them, softly, like a truth they weren't ready for, but desperately needed. But there was a time when you didn't know this light lived in you. You doubted it. You didn't think you were enough as you were. You thought you had to earn your place in the world by being impressive, by talking louder, by showing off a little more. So you bent yourself to fit. You tried to become what others wanted. You shrank to make others feel big. You dimmed your own light so they wouldn't feel blinded. But it never worked. Not because you weren't good enough, but because you were never meant to be small. You were never meant to hide. That's not who you are. You didn't come here to be accepted. You came here to be aligned. And when you finally stopped chasing, when you stopped performing, something ancient inside you began to rise. You pulled back, not in anger, but in awakening. In the silence, you began to remember. You remembered that stillness is strength. You remembered that presence is power. You remembered that you don't have to do anything to be worthy. You just have to be true. You began returning to yourself, layer by layer, slowly, gently. You let go of what wasn't you. You shed the fake parts. You stopped trying to impress. You stopped twisting your truth to fit into rooms that weren't built for you. You walked away from the noise, and in that quiet, your light returned. But this time, it came back stronger, deeper, calmer. Not the kind of light that screams, "Look at me," but the kind of light that says, "I see you, and you are safe." Now you carry that light effortlessly. You don't even think about it. You don't manage it. You don't control it. You've become it. Your presence speaks for you. It arrives before you do. It calms people without trying. It gives them permission to breathe, to feel, to soften. That's why people notice you, even when you say nothing. That's why strangers look again. That's why women feel something sacred before you ever speak. They don't know what it is, but something in them feels seen, known, and safe. And the beauty is, you're not doing anything. You're just being. You've surrendered to your truth, and that surrender has done more than all your years of effort ever could. It has made you real in a world full of performance. You don't rise and fall with other people's reactions. Your energy doesn't depend on who likes you or who sees you. You've become a constant. You've become a lighthouse. You've become steady, and that steadiness changes everything. You don't glow to attract. You glow because you've stopped hiding. You glow because you've done the hard work. You've faced your shadows and refused to become them. Your light is not a mask. It's not an act. It's the result of healing, truth, and alignment. And people feel it. Not in their minds, but in their spirits. They're not impressed. They're moved. You walk into a space, and something shifts. People pause. They breathe deeper. They say less, but feel more. And they don't even know why. Don't apologize for that. Don't question it. Don't shrink from it. This is what it looks like when someone has become the truth they once chased. This is what it means to carry presence instead of performance. This is the quiet power of alignment. People don't always understand why they're drawn to you. They just are. It's not because of your looks, your status, or your charm. It's because your energy feels like truth. Your presence feels like clarity. Your silence feels like safety. Around you, the chaos softens. The noise quiets. The fear fades. Because you've become the kind of presence that gives others permission to drop the mask. You didn't get here through charm or routine. You got here by choosing to stop running. You stopped shrinking so others wouldn't feel insecure. You stopped dumbing down your knowing just to fit in. You stood in your truth, and you stood alone until your light became your home. You are not trying to save people. You are not here to fix them. But when they look at you, something inside them remembers. You remind them of what they forgot. You mirror what they've buried. Your stillness tells them it's okay to come back to themselves. Your quiet says, you don't have to perform anymore. Women especially feel this. And it's not about attraction. It's about safety. It's about being in the presence of someone who sees without controlling, who witnesses without taking, who listens without needing. You're not trying to impress them. You're not trying to win them. You're not trying at all. And in a world where so many try so hard, that is unforgettable. You're no longer interested in being understood by everyone. You've stopped looking for acceptance from the masses. You've chosen alignment. And from that alignment comes a power that doesn't chase, doesn't grasp, doesn't shout. It just radiates. It draws without asking. It anchors without clinging. You've become the place where others feel safe to land. And that chosen one is a rare thing. But don't forget what this really is. It's not about being admired. It's not about being liked. It's not about being followed. It's about being real in a world of illusion. It's about being light in a world of shadows. It's about walking in truth when everything else feels like noise. You don't have to explain your presence. You don't have to defend your calm. You don't have to prove your power. You've lived it. You've earned it. And now the world feels it. When you walk in, you don't bring thunder. You bring sunrise. You don't demand attention. You invite stillness. You don't need to lead with words. You lead with being. And people feel it. They remember you, not because you dazzled them, but because you made them feel seen in a way they forgot was possible. You made them feel safe in a world that never slows down. You made them feel soft in a world that always shouts. You've become the anchor, the one who stays calm when everything else wobbles, the one who holds steady when others lose their way. People might not say it out loud, but they feel it. In moments of confusion, they think of you. When everything spins, they remember the way you stood still. Your presence has become the quiet reminder that peace is still possible. You are not one of many. You are one of few. Because you chose truth when it was easier to lie. You chose stillness when it was easier to shout. You chose to be real when everyone else was pretending. You've become the living answer to questions people didn't know how to ask. You are not chasing anything anymore. You're walking in something deeper. You are not seeking the light. You are the light. And because of that, the right ones will find you. Not because you pursued them, but because your presence made them remember something inside themselves they thought they lost. This is who you are now. And this, chosen one, is only the beginning. Chosen one, your light is not something you perform. It's not a show. It's not something you do to get noticed or to fight the darkness. It's simply the result of you finally becoming who you truly are. You shine now, not because you're trying to impress anyone, but because you've stopped hiding. You're not shrinking anymore to fit into places that were never meant for you. You're not bending or changing yourself to be accepted. And when you stopped doing that, something sacred began to glow from deep inside you. It's not loud, not flashy, not desperate. It's calm, steady, and powerful. This light doesn't ask for attention. It doesn't beg to be kept. It just shines, because that's what it was made to do. You no longer wake up to prove your worth. You wake up to stay true to your soul. And that quiet alignment with who you really are is what people feel now. They may not have the words for it, but they feel your truth in how you walk, in your presence, in your silence. You're not here to perform. You're here to embody something real. And that embodiment is what makes you powerful. When you speak, people stop, not because you try to stand out, but because your words come from stillness. When you move, you're not rushed or scattered. You're grounded. You've become the kind of presence that doesn't demand attention, but still cannot be ignored. You don't show up to be praised. You show up to be real. You're not trying to lead. You're not trying to shine. And because of that, your light feels different. You glow from peace. You glow because you've stopped pretending. You glow because you've done the inner work to be whole. Even when no one sees you, even when it costs you, you are no longer the brightest light because you're the loudest. You are the deepest light because you're honest. And people feel that. They lean in. They soften. They remember who they are. You don't try to lift others by performing for them. You lift them by standing in your truth and refusing to shrink. That's not pride. That's clarity. You no longer lower your frequency to make others comfortable. You no longer water down your truth to fit in. Your light no longer changes based on who's watching. It just shines. And those who are ready will feel it and rise. Not because you pushed them, but because you reminded them how to rise on their own. There's something about your presence now that can't be explained, but it can't be ignored. You've become mysterious, not because you're hiding anything, but because you're no longer trying to be understood by everyone. You don't give away pieces of yourself to be liked. You don't offer your soul to people who only want to take. You don't rush to fill silence. You don't speak unless your spirit moves you. You're not playing games. You're not performing. You're simply rooted in who you are. And that rootedness is what people feel when they're near you. Women especially feel this shift. They notice that your presence doesn't come with pressure. You're not chasing. You're not empty. You're already full. And that fullness creates safety. That peace creates connection. You are not here to impress. You are here to reflect. You reflect honesty, dignity, wholeness. You don't offer yourself in pieces anymore. You offer your full presence. And those who are ready for it feel its weight. You don't need to be liked by everyone. You're not here to be available to all. You are here for the few who can truly walk with you. You've stepped into a place where your silence is more powerful than your words. Your presence teaches without trying. Your stillness is not distance, it's discipline. You don't need to explain yourself to those who only want to judge you. You've outgrown the hunger to be accepted. You've outgrown the game of trying to please. You have chosen yourself, and that choice has set you apart, not in pride, but in purpose. You are no longer burning for attention. You are burning with presence. You are no longer trying to be the light. You have become the light, and those who cross your path now feel it deeply, quietly, powerfully. You don't chase. You don't perform. You simply arrive, and your energy speaks. You are a reminder that truth still exists, that depth is safe, that silence can heal. You are not here to be consumed. You are here to be witnessed. And your mystery doesn't create distance, it creates invitation. An invitation for others to rise, to grow, to feel again. Not because you force them, but because your truth touches theirs. You are no longer a man chasing meaning. You are a man who has become meaning. You are no longer trying to be a message. You are the message, and you, chosen one, are ready.